Hey everyone, it's Marian from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. I want to do a short video today on this stabilization fund and the equalization between HIP and GHI. So let's get right to it. So I'm going to share with you this graph that I created, and it was generated by using the COBRA rates, and that is a published rate that is on the OLR website. Now, the COBRA rates are 102% of the cost of a plan. So whatever the premium is plus a 2% administrative fee on top of it. So basically what I did, and it's not 100% accurate, you'll just take the rate that's published on the rate chart that's published by OLR and just back out 2%. So what I did was I made two columns. Here you have the individual rate and then the family rate. And of course, the family rate will be a little bit more expensive. So the HIP rate in this box here, that is the governing rate. And according to the administrative code, as I've been educating Michael Mulgrew over my last dozen videos, the law says that the city will pay the full cost of health coverage up to the HIP HMO for every employee, retiree, and their dependent. That is the HIP HMO. So the HIP HMO rate, individual is $992.08 and family is $24.33. Remember, these numbers are approximate. Now, the GHI plan, which about 94, 97%, depending on whether it's active or retiree, is the GHI plan. And that is the most popular plan that everyone does choose. Now, like I said, always in the past, there's like 11 different plans that you could choose from active and 14 different plans you could choose from as a retiree. So there is a little bit of people that are in other plans, like you have several thousand people that are like 20 something thousand people that are in the HIP plan itself. You also have a couple thousand people that might be in an Aetna Medicare plan or the United Healthcare plan or a Blue Cross plan, and the numbers are small, but wherever the plan needs to be, people need insurance that another plan doesn't cover. There was a choice, right? Because the law says the city will pay the full cost of health coverage for every employee, retiree, and their dependent. If you were on a plan that did not cover an area, you had another plan to go into. You may have had to pay a little bit for it, but it was always there. So the HIP rate being in this box is the benchmark. And so you can see the GHI rate for the individual, there is a difference of $18.50. For the family plan, it's $218.54. Why does that matter? It's because if the stabilization fund wasn't in place, then you would be paying that $18 as an individual or the $218.54 as family. So that's why the health insurance stabilization rate was health insurance stabilization fund was so important, because that is the fund that pays the premium so you don't. And this is why we've become so furious over its misuse. Now, the senior care rate is $204.02, so $204, and that is per person. There isn't a family plan. If you have a husband and wife, it both cost the city $204. Why was that never a charge to the city? Well, because if the HIP rate on a benchmark is $992 for a plan that pays 100% of your care, this plan, this is $204, and it's only a 20% plan. It is well below the benchmark. Even if they added in the Medicare B premium, which, can I do that? Yes, I can. Okay. Even if you added in Medicare B premium, I could take that out. And I think today it's like 165. Even if you added in both of those together, you're only getting $369.02. So it's still under the benchmark. So the city has to pay the full cost of health coverage up to the HIP HMO. Even with this combination, it's still under the HIP HMO. The city still has to pay for it. This is why we keep saying to Michael Mulgrew and Henry Garrido that a Medicare eligible premium does not come out of the stabilization fund. It only comes out of a line item in the budget, and it does. Even your healthcare, the first part of it is a line item out of the budget, and the rest of it was supposed to come out. That difference, that 1850 or 218, depending upon how many people or individual or family, would have come out of the stabilization fund. So this is why when you start hearing union leaders talk bullshit about Medicare eligibles costing the city a fortune, it's not Medicare eligibles, and it's not our retiree healthcare. It's not Medicare eligible retiree healthcare. And so you understand, active workers and under 65 retirees, you are both on the same plan. You are both on this GHI plan right here. That is the plan for active workers and under 65 retirees. This Medicare plan, this senior care with Medicare B, that is for your Medicare eligibles. We are the least cost to the city. So it is not our rates. And Michael Mulgrew, shame on you for telling your retired teacher chapter this past week that it is the high cost of retiree healthcare. It is the active worker and under 65 retiree plans that is costing a lot of money. So hopefully this has all been dispelled, and Mr. Mulgrew can stop talking BS about why he did what he did. He actually did what he did in 2014. His contract specifically states, and you can go to our either the OLR website or the New York City org website, you will see the 2014 teacher contract. There's plenty of press releases. There's plenty of blogs on it. There's plenty of everything that says that he hadn't had a contract for 9 years. And de Blasio told him, if you want these raises, you're going to have to subsidize them. You're going to have to pay for them. So what he did was he didn't want to take it out of anything else, and he took it off the backs of every other city worker and every other retiree. And to answer the other question was, why don't you have choice? Was because Michael Mulgrew doesn't want to give you choice, because choice would then have to come out of the stabilization fund. And he doesn't have the ability to pay for that because he misused the money. So Michael Mulgrew can't give you a choice of healthcare plans. He negotiated that away. And it is up to our organization to fight to get that back. And that's the only way we're going to be able to do it. Now, if Michael Mulgrew and Henry Garrido and Harry Nispoli had a conscience after everything that they've done over the last several years, to be able to recognize and say out loud, this was a mistake, let's walk this back, then I guess everything can kind of go back to normal, to a point. But, however, they did commit themselves to $600 million in recurring savings in healthcare. And how is that going to happen if they don't give a little bit back? You know, be very careful with what you bargain and what you negotiate, because they could have negotiated more money for the stabilization fund. They could have negotiated better benefits. They could have negotiated anything they wanted. But they have made a practice of diluting the health benefit program, because they keep getting these pressure from Bob Lynn and Renee Campion and Ken Godner from Management and Budget to reduce the cost of healthcare. Well, the only way to reduce the cost of healthcare to the city is by either reducing the benefit or passing the cost to you. Those are the only two ways of doing it. And with costs going up, every mayor has said the cost of healthcare is skyrocketing. I can go back to the 70s and still show you memos that the cost of healthcare was skyrocketing. They've been skyrocketing forever. It's not going to change. So the only way to get away from that is stop negotiating away your healthcare. Negotiate the better benefit and protect yourself. Protect your now and protect your future. The city, Michael Mulgrew said, has the highest reserves ever. The mayor's had the highest reserves ever since he got into office. So he's saying that they shouldn't cut schools. They shouldn't cut services. Well, you shouldn't have cut healthcare then. This whole thing was a ruse. I wouldn't believe Michael Mulgrew for anything, because everything that he said to you guys at that retired teacher chapter meeting this past week was a complete fabrication. And he never took ownership of putting anyone in this situation, including the other unions and the other retirees. We're here to tell you the truth. Sorry, numbers don't lie. Have a great day, everybody.